Thank you very much. Brothers and sisters, welcome once again to the last, well, I would say, the last session of our presentation on the United Nations of Africa. I'm going to put my camera on so you can see me. So I'm your brother Christian Kwame Akpotsa, and this will be brief. It will just be like a recap so that we can open the floor for discussion. I want more discussion today rather than more presentation, because I've done two presentations already. So welcome to today's session. It's the 1st of November, and we'd like to thank you all for coming. That's those of you who are here now, and thank those who will watch our YouTube video later. We know there are about 100 people watch our YouTubes every week. We thank them all. We only ask that we get more young people involved, because not a lot of young people are watching our sessions. So it'd be nice to have younger people also involved. So thank you for coming. As I said, today is going to be the last session on the question of unifying Africa. And as I said, I will not be doing a full presentation today. I'll focus only on a few things, so I can kickstart the discussion, and then you can all come in and share your thoughts. We have formed a WhatsApp group. I'll talk about that much later. So I hope you can see my screen, everyone. Pigeon, can you confirm the screen is visible?
Yes, Brother Kwame.
Thank you very much. So I just want to go through the timeline once again, because I think that is key. Look at the history. So Africa has had the age of kingdoms, pre-colonial kingdoms, you might say. Coloniality itself, or colonialism, or to colonize, I mean, itself, we tend to talk about African history in terms of colonization. And sometimes maybe it's not fair on us because we have existed thousands and thousands and thousands of years. You are aware, for example, that our forefathers were observing the stars thousands of years in succession, more than 20,000 years in succession, and mapped out all the stars in the heavens long before before modern civilization. So really, it's not fair on us to be using colonialism as a kind of marker for our history. But anyway, be that as it may, we've had the age of kingdoms, powerful states like ancient Ghana, Mali, Songhai, Oyo, Asante, the Zulu kingdom. And let's remember, some of these were Islamic kingdoms. Yeah, the Songhai, for instance, as I understand, was an Islamic kingdom. And you remember some of our brothers moved north and colonized what is today called Spain, the Moors, as they are called. And they brought, as we are told, civilization and so on there. The problem for us is that they fought for regional dominance. They didn't fight for continental unification. So instead of the Moors moving north to what is Spain today, why didn't they rather use their knowledge, their understanding, their universities and so on? Why didn't they use that rather to bring the four families of Africa together? The Bantus, those in the south, then the Nilo, the Nilo Sahara, the Nilo Sahel. Why didn't they rather unify the continent rather than leaving the continent to go and colonize other parts. But anyway, be that as it may, I think it is a critical failure. And then if we forward to well, from here back. But if you look how it's evolved, then in 1066, a guy called William the Conqueror lands in England. And at the time he lands in England, ancient Ghana, you remember Nkrumah named the Gold Coast, he renamed it Ghana when Ghana was formed as a nation in 1957 and registered with the United Nations at the time when Ghana was declared as an independent country. Ancient Ghana then had an army of 20,000, and the royal force alone was about 5,000. That's at its peak. And yet, ancient Ghana did not unify the continent. You might argue that the fact that England, this same England, if you fast forward, was able to organize a mercenary force, land on the shores of what is today Nigeria, invade the city of Benin, destroy it, and steal and loot their treasures, which they then went to Europe and sold in America and sold them on the open market. And some of these are now in private collections. Some of them are in museums. Some of them are now, we understand, being returned, like the Benin bronze, which I have been to at it was put on display opposite the South African embassy in what is called Trafalgar Square. And I have been to see them, and we understand they are now being kind of loaned back to us, even though we own them. And the Ashantis also have their the things that were stolen during the war, yes, and to our war and so on. That some of them are being returned. And then when they landed when they landed in the Cape, and then they went through, the history of how they came to the Cape, because they wanted a place to stay and the ships, because the journey around the Cape was called the Cape of Good Hope, all the way to go to the east, the far east, China, India and China, because that route was very, very long. And so they needed a place to rest. So they chose Southern Africa, or the Cape of Good Hope, as we are told. Later on, they then went inland, stole cattle and so on. But the point is that when that landing took place, and then what came later, and the wars and so on, the other African countries did not really get involved. You understand? You had the entire continent. We have foreigners invading our continent, and yet the other brothers and sisters either did not know, or knew, or couldn't do anything. Whatever the reason, we could not defend. We couldn't defend Benin. We couldn't defend Southern Africa, and so on and so forth. We are still today calling for an African High Command that will kind of defend the entire continent. And so the point I'm making here is that, again, there was a strategic failure. With all this force, 20,000, and yet it also was all about regional dominance. It's as if people were asleep. Then fast forward to 1324, 1337, Mansa Musa. Again, I don't understand. Some Africans are very proud to celebrate Mansa Musa as the richest African on the planet. He took our gold and crossed the Suez, went to Mecca, and the amount of gold he had, and in fact, the amount of raw materials, the amount of minerals he had was such that some minerals like silver, I understand, were devalued for years because of that journey. The point I'm making is that he took our gold. He took our gold from Mali for what? I don't understand. Why would you take our gold and just cross over to Mecca and instead of using that to unify the continent, you use it on a trip and just waste it? But it's still continuing though, because we still have African leaders. Nigeria is a good example where billions, we understand, was just stolen and sent abroad. And so this hasn't changed. It's still continuing. Again, my point is that we have these resources which are not being used to unify the continent. Then you come to 1648, where the first nation state was formed, as we understand it today, called the Dutch Republic. Europe was in so many wars. I mean, these guys, they fight, they love fighting, eh? Hi, they can't stop fighting. Some of them were called 30 years war, some are 10 years war. They are always fighting. Professor Guanju, I think his name is, the Chinese professor who speaks on the Chinese civilization and where China has come from till today. When he speaks, he always says that he doesn't understand why the permanent state of mind of the West is always war, fighting, wars. He anytime he's speaking, he always makes a point that he doesn't understand this constant need for war and fighting. He doesn't understand where that comes from. But anyway, my point is that the Europeans form a nation state, 1648. Now remember that Maximus Severus, the African general, the Roman African general, had crossed over to what is today the UK and had set up a garrison called Londonium, which later became London. And that London that he set up is what is today the city of London, which, as you know, is a seat of financial control across the whole globe. Now, remember, this was set up by an African general. Anyway, that's not the point for today, but the point I'm making is that the city of London is a city-state on its own, just like this Dutch Republic is a city on its own. It does not answer to the UK government, and it existed long before the current monarchy was formed or before Parliament was even established. This city was there. So the city of London has supremacy over the laws of England. And in fact, they have a representative sitting in the British Parliament to make sure that laws that are passed are in line with the city. And laws that are passed in Westminster dare not contravene the laws of the city of London. Right? And yet, we never formed any nation state. This is my point. We never formed a nation state. We didn't. Ethiopia, if I understand, I stand to be corrected, was not a nation state in that sense. And Egypt, those countries that were in the 8 independent African states before Ghana became the first sub-Saharan African country to be independent. I'm talking about Liberia, South Africa. Then we had Ethiopia. Then in North Africa we had Egypt. I can't remember the rest. You probably remember the rest. Maybe Morocco Morocco. I think those were independent before. Those were the independent African states before Kwame Nkrumah led the independence of Ghana. Liberia, then there was Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone was set up by the British, and Liberia was set up by the Americans and they brought freed slaves to Liberia. Then we had the Berlin Conference, that illegitimate gathering of crooks and criminals in 1884, 1885, where they decided to divide our continent, to divide Africa into spheres. And that you own this, I own that. And the illegitimate creation of Berlin Africa, we call it. So we call the current Africa Berlin Africa. Now, let's go back to Maximus Severus and another Roman general called Africanus. And the fact that the word Africa itself was not used to reference the whole continent. It was a small group in northern Africa that the Romans called Afrique, which became Africa. So the word Africa, and Sister Njidika, who I don't know if she's here with us now, has pointed out that we need to get rid of the name Africa because we are calling ourselves by a name that we don't call ourselves. And when you look across the continent, most of our people we call Africa the land of black people. The word Africa is not in any African language as far as I know. And our brother Welcome has explained that their great-great-grandparents say they came from Nubia. So when you look into African languages, we say our land is the land of black people. So the word Africa is not ours. And that's something we have to look at. We have to get rid of the word Africa completely. And I know South Africa, the name is Azania. Not sure what that means, but brother Sam is here. He can explain to us what that word means and its origin. You see, but the point here is that again, instead of uniting this gathering rather divided the continent. Then you move to 1901. Now, at this point, the Africans who are outside the continent, I'm talking about the enslaved Africans and other Africans, are looking at the continent now from outside. So basically, those of us outside the continent are looking at the continent from the same position that our colonialists and enslavers looked at Africa, from outside. And so when they are looking at Africa from outside, they are thinking, well, this continent should be united. Now, the Africans themselves who sit on the continent, it doesn't occur to them. It's not something they think about. The ordinary African right now is too busy, rightly or wrongly, with what to eat today. They haven't got time to be thinking about grandiose schemes like uniting Africa. When your neighborhood itself is not united, or your family, the family you are in, is even not united, and you are talking about uniting what? Uniting the country or uniting the continent? Come on, guy. I've spoken some Nigerian brothers say to me, my brother, don't even go there. We can't unite Nigeria. You're talking about uniting Africa. That's what they say. But anyway, my point is that the idea of unifying Africa came from outside the continent. In 1901, when our brothers and sisters held the first, it was a Trinidadian called Sylvester, I believe. Yeah, Sylvester. He organized the first Pan-African conference in 1901. And this was in the United States of America. Notice, in America, where the enslaved had been taken to. That's when the first conference takes place. Then in 1945, so there were more conferences, and in 1945, the major one was held. It was mainly organized by the trade unions. And now, trade unions, do you notice that trade unions are silent on the continent? And yet trade unions have played a very decisive role in the independence of Africa. And yet somehow we don't hear about trade unions a lot. And and I don't know if you are aware that there are umbrella trade unions for Africa, and they are affiliated to trade unions, at the global level, and they attend meetings on behalf of the workers of Africa. Yeah, but I know that when some of them go to these meetings, they don't attend. They go shopping. That's what they do. They go and shop. They spend the whole meeting week shopping. I'm sorry, but this is happening. You know, they don't go and join the conferences and have the discussions that are supposed to be had. You know, so trade unions are something we need to look at. But the point I'm making here is that the Fifth Pan-African Congress was really, it had its roots in the trade union movement. Because if you could come to the UK as a trade unionist, then you didn't pay for your own fare. You know, the union paid for you and so on. But the leading organizers were Padmore and George Padmore and Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah had then moved from the US. He went there to meet Garvey. One of the reasons Nkrumah went to the US was to meet Marcus Garvey. By the time he got there, Marcus Garvey had already been deported. So he could not meet Marcus Garvey. And he was upset with Du Bois for his fight with Garvey, because Nkrumah thought that Garvey and Du Bois should have united. And we won't go into that, but the point is that Nkrumah had then left the US, landed at Liverpool. I believe it was Liverpool. Padmore was there waiting for him. They embraced, and the rest is history. As you know, Padmore then moved to Ghana, the Gold Coast, and then Ghana with Nkrumah. He then headed the African Bureau that was responsible for leading the decolonization of the continent. Then in 1958, the remarkable happened. For the first time, all this question about unification of Africa then arrives on the continent itself. This is the All African People's Conference that was convened by Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah to build momentum for a United States of Africa. This was in 1958 for the first time. It was attended by all kinds of people. In 1963, they decided to form the Organization of African Unity instead of uniting. So this was a collection of Berlin states. And after the success of the decolonization movement, remember, South Africa was not till 1994, and that is a whole story we can go into later. In 2002, the OAU formed the African Union. Again, note, the African Union is but a union of Berlin states. Our borderless Africans, brothers and sisters, there's an organization called Borderless Africa, and they have been calling for us to delegitimize these borders. Notice in the recent election in Tanzania, these borders have caused problems. We hear there's been stray bullets across the border. Why have a border in the first place? Why do we need borders anyway? Now, not to deviate, but in Ghana recently, we've seen demonstrations calling Nigerians foreigners and all kinds of nonsense. You know, when we have an ECOWAS passport, I carry an ECOWAS passport. When I was in Nigeria some years ago, I didn't have to get a visa. I didn't have to get a Nigerian visa because I had an ECOWAS visa. And our passports has ECOWAS in the front of it. Now remember, our passports before that was a passport that said you can't travel to South Africa and the Batu stands. That was on our passports in those days. So your passport wasn't valid to travel to South Africa in those days. And then when South Africa, after apartheid, then the passport was changed. And it had Ghana briefly. I'm talking about Ghana here specifically. It had Ghana briefly. And then later on, it became ECOWAS. Now, if we have an ECOWAS passport, how come Nigerians are now foreigners in Ghana? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Apart from the fact that the entire region from from Senegal, all the way to the tip of South Africa, tip of Southern Africa, is populated by the Bantu people. We are all one people. It's the same family with different names. You know, so the point is that the African Union is still not expressing the will of the African people. What is the will of the African people? Well, the African people want to be wealthy. They want to control their own resources. They want the resources of Africa to be used for the welfare of African people. They want African people to control their own wealth, to have self-determination. to have to unify, to develop the continent. And we can't as long as our resources are continue to be extracted, which it's a completely different story. But the point here is that today, what we are saying is that we need a proposal to unite Africa. And as I said, we formed a WhatsApp group, and let me say that now, we formed a WhatsApp group, and that WhatsApp group is going to be looking at the name change. We're not going to talk about Africa. We'll probably say the United Black Nations, the continental Black Nation United Black Nation, or the United Nations, the United either UNA, United Nations of black people, or United Black People, or United Nations, or something like that. So Africa is going to be removed. So that's what we are calling for, and that's what I've been talking about in the last 3 sessions. So I'll pause here. I'll just remind you that the call now is I've shared these slides, by the way, in the paper that I'm going to be sharing. These slides are there, so you can have a look at the slides and come back with any questions you have. The main thing now is the call out to you, and the call is for you to join in supporting this for the vision of a united Africa. And the other thing also is that we are going to be setting up. Our brother Welcome is the one that is leading this for us, and he's thinking of convening a meeting in Namibia, where he's based. That is his contact and his email address. I shared that earlier. And what we are saying is that if you want to play, if you are part of an organization and you want to play a role in this, please let Brother Welcome know, either by his email or his email address or his mobile number. And also, if you are an individual and you want to play an organization, please come forward. We're going to be setting up a Pan-African Unification Fund to fund this. And we're going to be fundraising because right now we don't know of any organization or any government that is kind of pushing this. And when Gaddafi tried it, they killed him. But they could easily kill Gaddafi because he was one man championing something. So he was exposed. And other African leaders didn't show enough interest. Some even opposed him. So it's understandable. But we are going to be civil society. And they can't kill civil society because we are like nodes. We are kind of dotted across the continent. So you can't kill us, basically. You can kill one man, but you can't kill all of us. In fact, you can't even kill us. We can't be killed. We are unkillable, if you like. And you can't kill an idea. Nobody has ever succeeded in killing an idea. So we are very confident that this will succeed. And please come on board. And if you're also interested in the fund, again, let Brother Welcome know. Initially, we want to release the paper, which some of us are going to sign, those who have put their name forward. And we're going to sign, all of us are going to sign after we've read. So I'm going to release the document after this meeting, after I've heard all the discussions. I'm going to incorporate the discussions into the paper. We'll then share it with those on the WhatsApp group. We'll then share your thoughts. If you're happy, if there's anything you want us to change, we'll change it so that document is a collective document. It's not one person that can be taken out. It's the voice of Africans. So that is that, Brother Pigeon. I think I'll stop there and then open the floor for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Kwame. Thank you very much for your presentation. I see. So Brother Kwame is saying all the floor is open for members to engage. If you want to ask any question or anything you want to add on, give your time to come in. So, Sister Marlin, I see your hand is up. Please go ahead, Sister Marlin.
Hello, everyone. I wasn't listening at the beginning, so I know from what I picked up, you're trying to form an organization, call for action. It's on the screen now, but I want to divert slightly and ask a question, if anyone can answer me. What has happened in Tanzania? I was under the impression that this woman president, I don't even know her name, was of, good caliber, but it's now looking as if she's not because of the election. She wouldn't allow no one the opposition to take part. Can someone explain to me briefly
Hello, Sister Marlene.
what has happened? Yes, I'm listening. Hello? Hello?
Brother Pigeon, are you speaking? We can't hear you, Brother Pigeon.
Okay, Sawindo, please go ahead.
Yeah, Brother Pigeon, are you responding to Marlin's question?
Now, I've said I'll respond to Marlin's question later because it's not part of the presentation, but I'll respond to it. So let's first of all take questions to the presentation, then I'll respond to that.
Okay, thank you.
Greetings.
Greetings, brother.
Brother Pigeon.
Yes, Sawindo.
I have seen here, we want an Africa with one people, one currency, one military, one command, one parliament. Is foreign relations, external relations, international relations going to be taken care of under one of these ones? Because I would have wanted a situation whereby when we deal with international communities, we speak with one voice. When we negotiate, we shouldn't negotiate at our municipal levels. And this must be carefully crafted and executed. Thank you. Are we in darkness, or did everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I heard you, my brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm sharing a screen that addresses Brother Welcome's question. So for those who don't know, Brother Welcome, who just spoke, is the one that's leading UNA for us. So the core principles of the new federation, I think we'll call it the Federated Black Nations. I think the word black, we must restore the word black in whatever we want to do going forward, because I think that says a lot. And it's either United Black Nations or Federated Black Nations. And when we say Black nations, we mean the true nations on the continent, the nations like the Ogoni nation, the Yoruba nation, the Ga nation, the Luo nation. I mean, the Luo nation alone is in what? Kenya, it's in Tanzania, it's in Uganda, and it's in it's another fourth country. I mean, that's one nation has been split into 4 parts. So this is a nation, I mean, in its own right, and so are so many other nations, the Chekwa nation and so on. So So I think it makes sense to talk about federating them. So to answer the question that brother Welcome has raised, the key principle is subsidiarity, which says that the federation must make certain decisions, and leave other decisions to the nations themselves. So, for example, the Ewe nation or the Luo nation will make certain decisions themselves, like police and so on. And those ones we leave to them. And then, like you said, Brother Welcome, then something like the question of so I'm sure on the slide we have the continental government handling things like foreign policy and diplomacy, and those 4 things, and defense, continental defense, the African High Command. I'm reading from the left, everyone. The second bullet point: the continental government handles only what it must. So foreign policy and diplomacy, continental defense, Pan-African infrastructure and trade. So, for example, things like railways across the continent, those must be handled by the continental government. But that continental government is a federated government. All the nations have a say in that federal government. It's not going to be like now, where it's a tool of imperialism. And then finally, upholding the Continental Charter of Rights. So we have to have a continental charter. You can't just every nation must have a say in the new federation. And I have suggested, you recall, that every nation has 1 vote, so that if you are 3 million, you don't override a nation that has 500,000. Some of the nations are small; they have 250,000, 500,000. And some of the nations are huge; they are about 3 million. So so there has to be one nation, 1 vote in certain things. At their national level, they can have 1 man, 1 vote. But when it comes to federal matters, it has to be 1 nation, 1 vote. These are things that we need the fund, when it's raised funds, to set up technical committees to look at these things. Brothers and sisters, let's be clear. If we don't do it, nobody will do it for us. You remember, because the current club is not interested. The club of the new colonial president, they are not interested in what we are talking about here. They are not interested. So they have the money, they can put money in this, but they are not interested. So let's be clear, is we will have to do it. Yeah. So, Brother Welcome, yes, the answer is yes. Foreign policy and diplomacy, continental defense, Pan-African infrastructure, and then the Continental Charter of Rights, those will be held by the continental federated government. Yes. Thank you. I'll try to be briefer with my answers so that we can hear more people. Thank you.
Brother Kwame, Brother Pigeon. Can I say something small?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
What is happening in Cameroon and Tanzania? How is it that it is not any of our business?
How is it?
Come again?
You are saying how is it?
How is it that it is not any of our business?
What I said, Sawindok, is not what Brother Kwame was presenting. I will respond to it, but it's not in line with what Brother Kwame was asking. So I did not say it's none of our business, but I said that I will respond to it. But let's take questions in regards to the presentation put forward. Then I can share address on that.
Sorry to misunderstand me. It is not coupled to the previous question. This is just a question on its own, and if it needs explanation, I shall do so.
Yeah, that's what I said. It will need a separate expression on its own, so that we take questions in regards to this presentation. Then you can now respond to that issue, because it's also an emergent issue now.
Thank you.
Now, I see, first of all, before I go ahead, I see somebody by the name Amado Guy. Kindly introduce yourself and let us know where you're joining us, because there might be confusion there. Amado. Amado?
Yes, yes. Hello, here is Amadou. Can you hear me?
Yes, where are you joining us from?
I am calling from the Gambia.
The Gambia.
Yes,
So you're from Gambia.
yes.
Okay. That one I needed to confirm, because there's the issue whether are you from Britain or from Gambia.
I said from Gambia.
Okay, thank you. Now,
Yes. So you can. Yes. Can I go ahead?
yeah, please go ahead. I just needed to know you are or go ahead, but I'll take other answers as well, because there were answers that were before, but I needed to confirm that before we go ahead.
Okay. No. Then please confirm before we proceed.
No,
You're welcome.
I've confirmed you are from Gambia. I've confirmed that because these are free space for us.
Okay. Yeah. No, because I heard you ask 3 times even after I replied. So that's why I'm not sure what you wanted further.
Okay, so please proceed. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have.
Please
So
proceed.
yes, I was a bit late. Did not attend during maybe the first part of the presentation, unfortunately. But I got unwell during the last part when you were talking about the United Nations and the African nation, like the Yoruba nation, the Luo nation, etc., uniting into a federated state. I'm not sure if I've missed something else very pertinent in terms of the structure you're proposing, but that was what I understand. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So please go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to make a comment in the sense that there are various ways of bringing about a united, federated African state. And it's great. I like this workshop, which is why I am attending the webinar here now, that you want to talk about how to do that. And because we have so many other organizations, but really in terms of practice, how to reach that goal of unification is not very clear in terms of strategy. So that's why I'm interested to be part of this discussion and share maybe the ideas that I may have in terms of how to do that, and in terms of how to do it in partnership with other Pan-African organizations or movements in order to be more effective. So I missed the first part, unfortunately, as I said, but maybe you might want to guide me in terms of how I could share my ideas or participate in the process or in determining how to proceed with a federated state. Is that something you have already chosen the path and you said it's going to be a united federated state of nations based on some of our cultural ethnic groupings, as you gave examples, rather than the national states that we have now in terms of the 54 or 55 governments, countries that we have, which was a little bit higher level and brought many nations together, and strengthened the spirit in some way. I'm just trying to emphasize something that you might have missed with the chosen approach that you've talked about in terms of going nation, the proper African nations. So we had, over the years since independence, a move to have these nations. They are artificial. That's not what we wanted. We want to dismantle the borders. But should we go back and to do something that may even emphasize, maybe it's not your intention, but emphasize our ethnicities again, something that has been a problem that has been utilized by neocolonialists and others outside the continent to divide us in so many ways, and it's still affecting us, many nations. So my questions, they are just my questions. I'm not saying that it's the wrong path. Maybe it's even the best thing to do, but I'm not sure. So I'm raising these concerns that why not consider maybe these artificial nations that we already have, even though that's not what we want, but move from there and strengthen even what has already been strengthened in each of those boundaries in terms of a nationhood, over the last 60 years. I think that was a significant step forward. We may not have progressed very well and do what we wanted to do as a sovereign people, but we have also, it's not that everything was zero. We have been developing things within. So I would think that it's good to consider not leaving out that stage before the federal structure. And just going back to the nations, which are very positive. I have nothing against them. We are Yoruba, we are Luo, we are Wolof in Gambia and Senegal. We are Manding, in several countries across West Africa. We are Hausa, we are Fulani in several countries, etc. So they are fine. But the fact that we've moved a little bit beyond the emphasis at that level is a little bit of concern to me. That why not? We may consider that level, maybe in terms of the integration processes. There may be places where they may be fitting in, but in terms of the entities of the federated African states, the individual entities, it might be a bit problematic if we want to go back, and there'll be too many at the same time. There will be hundreds and hundreds, probably, I would imagine, compared to the 54 nations, and maybe simpler in terms of the instrumentation and the things that we need to do structurally to achieve what we want to achieve. So those are just preliminary concerns that I have. I may have ideas in terms of maybe what to do, what can we infuse into this, etc. But maybe I would stop here for now and allow you to maybe give a feedback, and I'll be happy to be part of the discussion and part of these brilliant ideas that you are trying to hatch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brother Kwame, because of the hands that are up, I propose that I take some hands and come back to you. But Brother Kwame will respond to that. He has noted that as well. He's our presenter for this court topic. So if that's okay, I'll take the hands in this order as I see them in my screen. I'll take, I'll be posting that map on the ethnic background a bit because I have a research a bit, Sister Njidek. I'll be posting that shortly. But let me hear Brother Benny and Sister Kamo, please. Brother Benny, let's start with you.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm coming from an organization that looks at things not only in the physical, but we also look at behavioral levels. And as Brother Kwame presented for the 3 series, today's one, where he concluded for me, as I understood him, is in the area of attitude, which he was able to locate that as far back into our ancient times, and that attitude persists. The point is, you can't treat a body by just, how do I put it? You need to be able to eradicate, to be able to understand why we have an attitude, a disease in the body. You see, so apart from that, if we are not going to tackle the attitude, then we need to go the Chinese way, which also in the current present world, we can't embark on a revolution, because that is a way that you are able to force behavior change, and you are able to correct things using force. And Africa is large. It may not even be possible to work that way. But then the defect remains that our attitude of always giving our best out, and also being our own sellout. You see, I know that humanity, it's a problem, but it is very strong on this concept, because I personally have done a study on some of the historical things, the time these explorers arrived. But if you really look into history, much of the conquering came because we ourselves as Africans betrayed and sold our kings and traditional leaders to the whites. So once this remains, Brother Kwame, I would request that we look at also that side. And because one thing is that, as much as, like you talk about Gaddafi, for me, other sources I have read show that Gaddafi killing was not necessarily because of the unification, but it was a strategy Sarkozy wanted to counteract the Chinese and also take the Northern Africa to Europe and make gains from there. Whatever it is, what is important is how do we deal with this defect so that we are able to actually achieve this unity by the 2030 that we're talking about. Because I think we are come to the point that we need to actually embark on something forceful and something that really we are able to mobilize the youth to support the whole idea and impose it on the continental leadership at the moment we call AU or whatever. But then we can also start from the sub-region level, which, brother, in fact, I wanted to call him personally, but in the case, let me just talk about it here that why we don't even begin to say that Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique. Why don't you do it? Because I know South Africa has a problem with our whites here. But then at least these countries can start something which actually would become significant because all these countries are suffering. But don't we see that if we are to put our resources together within the sub-region in this way, won't it become more powerful and strong? Even for the whites who are in South Africa and threatening every day begin to be taken by that sense. So this is what I would want to actually also from the insight I got. This is what I am looking at. That defect we need to also, because if we can't, there's no way to bypass it, and we keep on being hamstringed all the time. Somebody betraying, and until when are we going to actually be able to stand up as a continent and stop all those things? Thank you.
Sister Njendika, then I'll go to Brother Kwame.
Okay, Medasi, thank you. Brother Bernie, I can you just really quickly paraphrase in like a sentence or so what your main concern or question was? I didn't quite understand the gist of what you were saying. Is that possible, please?
Please, what you said was the question.
Yes, the main point that you were just making. Can you just yes.
Yeah, I'm saying that there is an attitudinal problem which even Brother Kwame pointed out. And that attitude, how do we resolve it? Because it's something that even is hitting our countries, not just the whole country. Every country is suffering because of our betrayal attitude, whereby somebody will take $10,000 and the whole country for the next 50 years, we are just finished. I mean, these are some of the things that how do we resolve these things so that we are able to put, because we are at a standstill today because of these things which are going on. So how do we actually push this particular, what word do I use? Is it a stumbling block, which is an attitudinal problem? Not maybe the West in particular. They can do something, but if we change our attitude and we are able to get people that we can trust strongly, like this course, but then this group needs to link to the top people. But then last year or last 2 years, I think last year or last 2 years, the whole AU chairman could bring this Israeli president government into AU without permission from the other members. And Naledi Pandu had to stand and say, this is rubbish. They are not going to take it.
I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for re-explaining that. Okay, so Brother Pigeon, did you just tell me a minute ago that you are planning on posting up the map that you shared this week? And yes, please. Did you say you are planning on doing that? Oh, you're about to do it now. Okay, because it is on the web, and I noticed that there are other versions of ethnic linguistic groupings. And so is this the final, I guess you could say, version or categorization? Is this the final one that the committee has agreed upon, or is that still up for debate in terms of the separations?
Permit me to just respond to that quickly as
okay,
we take an intervention.
Thank you.
Yeah, we in the first and the second presentation done by Brother Kwame, when we were looking at the ethnic linguistic groupings of Africa, the key question that you raised, Sister Ndijeka, was, do we have a map that could then visually represent what you're trying to think of in terms of the linguistic or the nations of Africa in groupings?
Yeah.
So what I did is that I went extra mile to do a research a bit on the compositions of ethno-linguistic overview of Africa. And then it came out, there are many sources as to say, that Africa is made up of these key main groupings, which is the Niger-Congo grouping, the Afroasiatic grouping, the Nilo-Sahara grouping, the Khoisan, the Austronesians, and the Indo-European. Those are those who came later. So this map actually represents how they are in part of Africa, how they are dispersed as a bigger grouping rather than the small tribes. So these groupings have also individual tribes. As you can see, for example, in Algeria, we have the Afroasiatic, who are the Berbers and Arabic. In Egypt, you have also Afroasiatic, Arabic, Egyptian Arabic. And then in Libya, the same. Morocco, the same. Tunisia, the same. And also Western Sahara, the same. If you go to the Horn of Africa, you also find that there are more Afroasiatics. And these are the grouping now that they are included in that map representations. And then you have Nilo-Saharans. You go to East Africa, you get the Niger-Congo. So the Niger-Congo is the bigger Bantu community. And that's why it's extending from both the Congo area. You take it to the other side of Kenya. You go to Tanzania, they're there. Uganda, they're there. Burundi, they're there. Zambia, they're there. You go down to Seychelles, they're there. Comoros. Then you go to the Great Lakes Central region. Now, these are the divisions of the regions that we were proposing how you could divide the ethnic representation in Africa. So the map I'm sharing is actually just a representations of some of these major groupings in terms of the African existence. So this map do not actually exist as an individual map in the web because they have not been grouped in this manner. So it's the first creation that I was trying to create with some use of AI and the rest to try to group them, because there's no major groupings that exist in mapping or in online probably of these major ethno-linguistic groups of Africa. So for example, if you're to take the discussion further, if you're going to talk about Africa in a new boundaries or in a new setup, then you can then group Africa in ethno-linguistic groupings that then the new mapping could look like this in terms of our nations rather than the states you're having. So this is when we came up with this.
And thank you for the work. So what I understand is that you have, these are our nations, but then did I hear you all say that the our existing countries right now will no longer be countries, they will be provinces. They'll maybe temporarily or that may be the final decision. But the Berlin borders will exist for now, but they will no longer be countries or nations. They will be provinces. Is that correct?
Now that one, Brother Kwame now will come in to respond to it, or based on the presentation he has made before.
Okay. And then the last thing is in regards to Amadou Gay. You know, this is a Pan-African, but as Brother Kwame had mentioned, even in the ideals of the name of our federated nation, he's using the word Black. And so you're from Gambia. It sounds like you're Black, but you have a avatar with a white man on it, and that's your choice. But to come into this meeting, it's interesting, and I just think that even for security's sake, when we ask someone what is your name and where you're from, maybe we could go just a little bit deeper and say, are you Black African? Do you
Yeah. I like that.
believe in-
I like that. And I like that. May I respond just briefly?
Yes, please.
Yes, I like that. That's why I was asking questions when I suspected that the man was trying to ascertain if I am really from the Gambia. So I initially didn't think, but then later I realized, maybe the messy image that children decided to place there, and I hadn't got the time to remove it. Okay, they play because they watch football, and that was it. So not that I put it there. Okay, even I also had choice. It's my choice. It's nothing to do with me. I need to remove it from there, but I have to access my laptop. I can't do it on the phone that I'm using now to connect. So that was the
Thank you,
reason you
comrade.
saw that image.
Thank
Have
you,
I
comrade.
answered?
Well, we are a conscientious group, and we apply that to our personal lives. And so everything that we do from sun up to sundown, we have to give it some thought so that we're operating
Sister
in
Jideka,
a more, yes.
no, thank you for raising the concern, and I think the brother has also explained himself, because we see various pictures across. So I think that our chair will respond to it, but the fact that he's one of us, that's okay. So irrespective of the choice he took there, which we can raise issue on, but as he is also explaining himself, it's not a deliberate decision from his side. So we should not majorly actually take that much consideration on why did he put this picture. But if we certain is one of our brother, then the rest of the things we can find a way to sort it. But actually, he's also taking that it's not a personal decision. So our chair will also respond to that. Is that okay, sister? Hello, sister?
Someone muted. I got it, Midasi. Thank you.
Thank you. Brother Kwame, I think you can respond to some few questions that have been raised. I know we have around 43 or 33 minutes. Then I will take the rounds of answers also that are here. Unless you wish that I take the whole answer, then you come in. Brother Kwame?
A lot of questions have been asked, and I don't want to spend too long on them. So let me answer them very briefly, and then you can ask, because we want more interaction. I want to speak less, and you hear from the floor. So the question that our brother Gay has asked, the answer is yes. Please get in touch with brother Welcome. I'll share his details again on the screen.
Yeah. Please go ahead, brother Kwame.
Yeah, here it is. Here is his details. Confirm if you can see it. That's his mobile and that's his email. Brother Gay, yeah, Amadou. So if you can pick those up and contact brother Welcome, and then he can add you to the WhatsApp group. Is that okay, brother Amadou? Brother Amadou?
I've seen it. Thank you.
Excellent.
I've seen it. Thank you.
Excellent. So in terms of the points you raised, I've taken note of them. And in order for us to hear from more people here, let me just acknowledge them and say that I thank you for them. I am in the listening mode because we have to carry everyone with us. We are dialecticians, so we recognize that there will be conflict, and that conflict is fundamental to our universe. But at the same time, we have to be listening. So I am in the listening mode to take on board all the points. So thank you for raising them. I think you make a very valid point that shouldn't you rather take the current borders forward? I think that's a valid point. As Sister Njidika has made mention that we were thinking of them as provinces. So they will remain, but there will be provinces within the federated nation. So when you join the WhatsApp group, you can share your thinking. We will share with you what we also have in mind, and then we can work together. So the Federation of the Nations of Africa has to start from here. We will need to be listening to one another and taking on board what everybody is saying. That is how the federation will work. So here we will be an example of the federation. So I hope that answers your question, my brother. If you have any further, once brother Welcome adds you to the WhatsApp group, then please share that in the WhatsApp group and then we will respond. Thank you very much. Brother Benny's point is what I have dubbed, he can correct me if I'm wrong, the Mansa Musa syndrome. That's what I've called it. This is where we are always going outside. Always outside. Never inside. Always outside. And when we look inside, we want to build homes in our villages. That's all we ever want to do, to build a house. Even though we are not living there, we want to build a house in the village. We don't build a business. We don't build a factory. It's always building a house. But everything else is outside. That's called the Mansa Musa syndrome. And the Mansa Musa is a good example because of the amount of gold he took outside the continent. Now, let's be clear. Those gold are sitting in somebody's vault. It's ours, but somebody has control of it. And so that is something that I think we in a way, the Federation is an attempt to deal with that, because it was James Brown, didn't he, that sang the song, "Say it out, I'm black and proud," in the 60s. And the word black, we understand, I stand to be corrected, we understand the CIA didn't like the word black Americans. So they did their best to make sure that it became African Americans, because the word black is too strong for some people. But I think we have to look at that, something we have to look at. We have to return to ourselves. Right now, the way we are described globally is not us. It's not us describing ourselves. It's other people describing us for us. And we have to reject that. So let me then go to the last point about the map. So Sister Njidika asked if somebody had it. In fact, she said, if I had the skill, I would draw a map. So Brother Pigeon then decided, okay, I will draw a map. I'll find a map. So the map, as Brother Pigeon has said, it's not the final one. If anybody here has calligraphic and geographical skills, please get in touch and draw a map for us. So the map that Brother Pigeon shared, underneath it, we'll put the current nations, so you can see how they sit on the current nations, but then we'll put that beneath so that you can see what we mean. So I'll pause there, Brother Pigeon, because I want to hear more from others and incorporate their feedback into the paper. Thank you. Brother Madu, just quickly so you know, we will be releasing the paper, and for all those who are interested in signing. So if you are interested, please feel free. Can I also make a final point in light of what Brother Sister Njidika said about the picture of Brother Gay? Yes, the picture is Caucasian, but can we agree that individual Caucasians are not our enemies? It is a system that is our enemy. It is a system of resource extraction, that global system that extracts resources from Africa. That institution is what is our problem, but not individuals. Yeah, and also that within the African family, we have different skin tones, from the dark of Sudan to the very light of the Rwandese, and so on. So we are happy with all skin tones. So it's not a skin tone issue, the Federation. Thank you, Brother Pigeon.
Thank you. And I'll take the following hands. I'll go with the Brother Bongani, Sister Chisomo, and I'm seeing Sister Tapua's hand is up, unless somebody's hand was up before them. But let me go with that order. Bongani, Sister Chisomo, then Sister Tapua. Then anybody want to ask question, we'll take another round after that. Brother Bongani, please.
No, thanks, thanks, Pigeon. Thanks, Kwame and contributors who already made submissions here. Well, I've got a question today. Sometimes I tend to contribute, possibly maybe a few questions. One, I am trying to phase this, as I understand. I'm happy to hear from Brother Gay. He tried to give a different perspective on the nations themselves, and I've seen the maps that you demonstrated, you presented to us here. Now I'm seeing a situation where there's this elephant in the room of the current countries, or current state. I would prefer to call them current state. The current 54 states that we have that are currently in a position of, they're well equipped, they're better off in terms of executing the core principles that you indicated to Brother Kwame. The centralized defense, the centralized foreign system, foreign policy, all the four things that you've highlighted there eloquently, infrastructure, etc. All those are in the competency of a state-run machinery. Whether we like it or not, the existing states, South Africa, Namibia, Nigeria, Morocco, etc., they are the missionaries who are capable of executing such, to see to it that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is working. Whether it's not, but they better equipped because they collect revenues from their countries. So they economically in a better position. Now we seem to move a bit backwards and we talk of the nation, that is the indigenous nations. Now, the indigenous nations, of course, most of them, they were within the kingdom or the kingship, where the Malis, they will be under, the Ghana, they will be under a kingship, and etc. Now, what is real is, one, these nations, that is the indigenous nations, have evolved. They haven't been static all the time. They have evolved. I see the maps that you're showing, but you will find that out of that map now, there have been a lot of sub-nations that have emerged. And in the process, I would take it in the 13th, maybe 1300 or early 1400, the Roman Catholic Church papal fallibility impacted most of the kingdoms. We are not going to these nations as if they pristine, they pure, as we might imagine. These nations have been diluted badly. Thus, therefore, you have a situation where the traditional leadership is weak, is no longer as pure as we used to think of. Now, how do we transition? That's my question. I don't get that visibility on the paper, Brother Kwame. There's silence on that. How do we transition these two? Say if we of the view that for a real united unit, for the real attainment of the unity of the African continent, we need to bring the real native or rather indigenous nations to replace the artificial 1884 nations, call it states. I would rather call them states. How do we go about that without engaging the other party, that is the existing state? Currently, as things stand, the existing state are more powerful because they've got the power of tax revenue collection. They collect revenues from their different states. Therefore, their economy are better off, far better than anyone.
Yeah. So
How do we navigate?
Can I get your question? What's your question? How do we transition or navigate? Which one?
Yeah, you see,
how do we? No, I just want a question. How do we transition from?
We're currently running as things stand now. We have the 1884 nation state. As things stand now, that's what is legitimate. You know, these things are legitimate. Now we are saying actually this is not our thing. We had our own nations. That is now, you call them, that is the indigenous nations that were not based on the borders of the then 1884-85.
Yeah, so I just want to
I'm saying economies of scale and the issues of legitimacy and power, the existing states are powerful. How do we transition now to get to the document? It seems to be silent on a very critical matter, because it's the elephant in the room.
Which document are you referring to? Is
no, what we have,
PowerPoint slide
that we have. Yeah, the presentation that we have. I mean, we're not really getting details to that as to how do we turn things around? Because at the end of the day, we need legitimacy from the African peoples
Okay.
if we are going to talk of this kind of a union. And currently, the legitimacy is within the state, and we like it or we hate it. The general population in Africa has been enslaved and have been indoctrinated. The whole Pan-Africanist concept is an issue of a very minority.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, let me pause in there.
Yeah. So thank you for your question. I will factor that into the responses I'll make. Thank you. So, so a question I've written: how do we transition from the current nation states to the federated nations? Is that it? Yeah. How do we transition from the current Berlin states to the federated?
Actually, we're reversing this back to where it was. That's basically what I think I'm getting from you guys. What I'm getting from the document. So we are saying actually there were nations, native indigenous nations. So, well, somebody came and say, from that point to that point, it's Zimbabwe. From that point to that point is Mozambique, etc. Then you say, no, let's go back to who we were. Then that's how then we'll build nations. Then I'll be confident to call nations.
Yeah.
But
so
how do we transition?
I hear you. So
because if we can get that trick right,
if we
can
get
that
Mandani,
trick right, then
yeah, but I am in listening mode. So, but Amadu I think has raised the same concern, and you've also raised the same concern. So I've noted it down. Because of time, I'll listen to more questions, and I'll factor that in. If we need to, we can run another session, because our Saturday sessions are for unification meetings anyway. So it's up to us if we think we need another session to go into this. But I think in the first presentation I made, I dwelt a bit more on this. I accept I didn't dwell on it today because I wanted to hear more from yourselves than me doing a lot of talking. But thank you for the question. I've noted it down.
Brother Kwame.
Sorry, I was passing back to the chair. Yeah, brother, welcome. Yes, it's up to the chair. Brother Pigeon, are you there?
Sawindo. Yeah, I think Sawindo, can you hear me? Yeah. I wanted to say... There are two hands up, so I'll give you just a point of information. Yes, come in. I wanted to say that the comments or the answers to the comments that are going to be factored in would need further discussion in order to clear them. So I'm of the opinion that this is most probably begging for yet another round of discussion. Thank you. Thank you for that. Let's go to Sister Chisomo and Sister Tapua. We'll make that decision as we come towards the end of this session. Sister Chisomo, then Sister Tapua, please. Sister Chisomo, can you hear me? Or Sister Tapua? Any of you who can hear me, who can start, please. Hello, sisters, can you hear me? Sister Tapua, can you hear me? Can anyone hear me? Just confirm so that I can know maybe it's not on my side.
I hear you clearly.
Okay. So it means the two sisters can't hear me and their hands are up. I wish they could actually unmute themselves and ask their questions. If that is the case, then I will request if any other person has any other comment to put forth. Sister Tapua.
Yes, sorry about that. I was failing to unmute myself. Can I go ahead?
Okay, please go ahead, sister, then.
Right.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I'm just going to, because the question I think that when we talked about the Berlin borders, we acknowledge that the Berlin borders come with certain challenges because the Berlin borders were established to facilitate the interests of the colonialists. But what we have in the different countries is that there are groups in each of our countries groups of nations of people that were viewed to be difficult people, to be difficult nations for the colonialists, and they've been marginalized and excluded. So when you're talking about, for example, Zimbabwe, there are certain people in Zimbabwe who don't feel Zimbabwean. If you go to a lot of our nations, you will find that depending on how the colonialists perceived the different groups within that nation, they played divide and rule. So we have a situation where we're trying to unite people who in themselves within the colonial countries do not feel they belong because they've been excluded. And therefore we're talking of working on identity of the different nations, including those nations that were excluded. Because the nations that are coming to prominence in certain groups or in certain states are nations that were used by the colonialists to suppress the others. So the question I was hoping we were addressing in trying to look at the indigenous nations was to bring those people who feel excluded to the fore and give them a voice. And then also take the opportunity to be heard by the whole of Africa, because a lot of this history has been hidden. So when we bring that history up and we talk about these nations, it will give even those people who've been silenced the voice. So my question, like everybody else, all the speakers before me have been, is how do we operationalize it? But I really appreciate that we're talking of the nation and going back to the nation, because if we are going to use the Berlin the Berlin borders, we are throwing ourselves back in the hands of those people who wanted to exploit us, because they're using that as their lever. For example, French-speaking Africans, the French think, well, this is our pad, even up to now, after independence. So in order to disengage, we've got to disengage totally and stand up for ourselves by what we feel we should be called. I've got a second question relating to the presentation that we had last time. I think Brother Kwame talked about the different centers of excellence for Africa in terms of, I can't remember whether he was citing cities and saying this city would be good for that, Johannesburg would be good for business, and so on. I felt that
So
East Africa.
did you want me to repeat them? So you continue. I'm happy to let you continue.
Yes, I felt that East Africa was not represented. So I'm hoping that there's going to be a conscious effort to try and find things that aspects that could be represented by the different nations. For example, I would go to Tanzania for language. That when we're working towards finding a unifying
Mr.
language.
Rapua, come back
Yes.
to the mic.
Okay. Right. I was saying, I'm hoping that we pinpoint places like Tanzania as one of the places that we go to if we're trying to put our linguistic foot forward as Africans, so that we come up with a language, a common language that we can use within the region. So just a revision of what each of the regions could bring to the table is important. Thank you for
I think that's a good observation. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Tapua. I think that was a good observation, even though I was not in the second session. But I think, yes, Brother Kwame suggested something and he can be able to respond to it. But let me know if Sister Chisomo is here, Brother Kwame, before you come in, because her hand was also up. Then maybe you can respond to or also come up with that. Sister Chisomo, your hand was up. Did you want to still come back? Because I saw it went down. If not, then I can go back to Brother Kwame. And any other concerns you can also raise. We are having 19 minutes, so we can take other concerns maybe in the next 6 minutes. Then now we can also see now how we move forward to maybe the next phase with this. Sister Chisomo, do you still have to say something? Do you want to say something, Sister Chisomo? Okay. Brother Kwame, you can come in to react to some of the issues raised as I maybe look towards the chat if there's anybody who still want to raise something. Brother Kwame?
Again, I'll be brief because we want to hear from participants. Yeah. So, Brother Bongani, again, spot on. You remember, Brother Bongani has asked in the previous session to look at the sustainability of what I would call traditional Africa, our traditional authorities. And he's called for a programmatic approach. I have already incorporated that into the paper. So what Brother Bongani is now asking for is that the paper clarifies how we transition from the Berlin states to the federated nations. And as I said, I had addressed that in the first presentation. And basically, the idea is that if you are building a new house, you don't break down the one you are living in now. Otherwise you have nowhere to live. So you build a new house around what you have now. So that is how we will do it, and so on and so forth. But as I said, so that's the idea. In Sister Tapua's presentation has raised the other fundamental question, which is who are we? Who are you? This question of who are you? You remember, those of you who have looked at the work of the Cambridge mathematician. Sorry if somebody's offended because I'm quoting a Caucasian, but in his book Alice in Wonderland, the question that was asked Alice is, who are you? And that's a question of identity. And one of the galvanizing things that has brought us to where we are now in this discussion, again, I'll be very brief because of time, is that it was clear that there are the continental identity is missing. You see, we, all of us, see ourselves as Ghanaians, Nigerians, Kenyans, South Africans, Libyans, Guyambese, if that is the correct word, Brother Madu, and so on. We don't see ourselves as part of a continental nation. And that is one of the legacies of neocolonialism. And that is at the heart of the problem. There is no continental identity as to who we are. And so, and here is the thing. Yes, these nations were before the Berlin states. But who are those being called upon to vote? It's the same people, the Ewe, the Luo, the Nguni, the Yoruba. It's the same person who are being asked to vote in these borders. And these people I've mentioned belong to a nation that was there before, and they are still there now. And as Sister Tapua has said, and it is true, a lot of the nations were sidelined. If you go to every African neocolonial state today, you will find one group monopolizing most of the offices or most of the power. I don't want to mention it. In Ghana, for instance, it's the same group of people who are monopolizing the presidency, the parliament, and so on. And yet, within Ghana itself, the new colonial territory called Ghana, we have many, many nations. And the truth is, some of the nations have been sidelined. Some of them have just been basically made to shut up, as if they don't belong to the new colonial state. And yes, they don't belong. Some of us don't belong to the new colonial state. It doesn't belong to us. It's not ours. We don't recognize it. It doesn't speak our language. And Brother Aifido, who is not here today, said that he doesn't even respond to the the idea of being a Nigerian anymore. He doesn't respond to that question. Are you Nigerian? He doesn't respond to it. By the way, in Ghana, many years ago, we didn't respond to that question either. Under the CPP, we were just one nation, and that brings my last point. If you look at consensusism, which is the philosophy and ideology of decolonization with particular reference to the African Revolution, chapter 5, it makes clear that you can't talk about a uniting Africa unless you have united the nation. You see, you can't unite a continent when the nation itself is disunited. So what does that mean? It means that you have to unite the nations within that territory. But that hasn't been done. They haven't done that. Nobody has done that. Nobody has done that. People use their nationality, ethnicity to actually they galvanize it to create division and win votes, and then they want to monopolize power. Let me pause there because of time. Thank you. By the way, and yes, I accept the Language Center of Africa. So we were saying that South Africa, Johannesburg, if I'm more precise, because I think Johannesburg is the industrial capital of South Africa, isn't it? I think so. Either in Johannesburg or Cape Town, one of them anyway. But you can correct me; those from South Africa.
It's Johannesburg.
Johannesburg, yes. So Johannesburg will be the industrial capital. Then Kigali will be the center for the genocide center.
Genocide.
Genocide center. Then Accra will be the Pan-African Center, the mausoleum, and then Algiers will be the United Nations Center for United Nations, the new United Nations, and those were the four, I think. And then
Ethiopia and Egypt.
Addis, yeah. So Addis will be where our administrative capital will be, and then Tanzania can be the language center. And finally, Brother Welcome is the one leading this, by the way. So please feel free to contact him with your suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Chisomo, please come in. Then Sir Windhoek, I think I will be taking those two last hands. Unless you have to be included, please let your hand be up because we are almost now having 12 minutes. So let's start with Sister Chisomo, please.
Yeah, sorry, I kept going in and out, so I might be asking things that have already been answered. But otherwise, I'm only commenting on the stuff I've seen moving on my screen because I haven't had listen to the full presentation. So I saw organic nations, and I didn't understand that term. And also nations itself presents a lot of issues, like the first speaker said, I think from Gambia, that we have to be clear with what we mean by nations. Otherwise, if we take it the other way, we end up with hundreds and hundreds and millions. If we use what we've currently got, it might make it easier. And then the second speaker said, why not use the regions like SADC and whatever, and then build it up from there. And the other question was, I keep hearing Mr. Welcome. I don't know who Mr. Welcome is. Is it Sir Windhoek?
Yes.
Sir Windhoek. And also I heard the word committee. I'm not quite sure which committee is being referred to. Is there a committee that's writing this document? Or are there individuals writing this document? Because there was a question about, is that what was agreed by the committee? That was another one. I can't remember the other question. Yeah, it's difficult for me without the document to actually make, to critique it, put it that way. But otherwise, those are the kind of questions, because that nation thing, we keep hearing ethnicity, we keep hearing all sorts of different words. I remember we were trying to, because people identify themselves differently or call themselves differently. So we don't want to go into fights with people who don't call themselves either black or whatever. And So yeah, we had loads and lots of problems when we tried to define what diaspora means. Who is an African diaspora? To this day, it's still being argued differently. So we don't want to go down that route. We just have to be clear, not to confuse or upset in certain groups, because I kept hearing these are the major ones. The other ones are some. The other ones, meaning the other ones, are minor. How are these minor nations going to respond? We just have to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Brother Guy, please come in. Maybe some few minutes, and then we can get to Brother Kwame. It appears we might go to fourth part of this, but please come in.
Yes. Yeah. This is Brother Gay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. I don't want to be accused here of being biased toward the point that I had raised earlier. I'm not. I want to learn. If I find anything better than that, I'm willing to accept. We're still searching. Even Nkrumah had not been perfect in the path that they had chosen at the time. Some of us can critique even some of the things at that level. So it's never perfect. And now that, as the lady just before me was mentioning, we are already having very hazy definitions, within us, going back to structures hundreds of years. We're talking of 1884. So it's nearly 150 years now. Do we want to deny all the dynamic developments and transformations that have happened under 150 years and go back? For nostalgia, yes. or whatever, emotionally, yes. I'm not emotional only. As a Pan-African. Sorry, a call coming in. My apology. Okay, there was a call. I've stopped the call. Can I go ahead? Yes.
No, please go ahead in the next 2 minutes so that we can give back.
Okay. I have to shorten it then. So yes. So already we are having issues with the current groupings that we have, ethnically, culturally, whatever we call it, within the nations themselves. The current states that we have, the 54 states. So is it possible to go back to nearly 150 years ago in terms of our formation and what we did in the educational and all these other sectors? It has transformed. It has moved. We can't deny history. It has been moving. So really, I would like us, this is just a critique, a challenge to this whole idea, so that we revisit it and we may find places that we can tweak it, to make it better, because it's not going to be very practical. These nations are recognized. They're existing now for so long, for 60 years. Everybody knows it, the whole world. They have no issues. The only issue is they are neo-colonial. They're being controlled and dominated. That's all. But all the rest, we can't deny it. It's true that they had influenced us in all these various ways, right? And very negatively.
Okay. Yeah. But Guy,
in the economic to emphasize those positive areas and what can we rebuild, what can we move forward with from this level now, because these structures are already in place, the economies, bringing people together. You want to change all that, scrap it and start afresh, like a new world is being born. Symbolically, yes, a new world is being born, but in terms of the feasibility, what's happening today, the multipolarity of the world, how do we address that? China and all this, no, then we would be dreaming in our own little world there. There are things happening. So the easiest and swiftest, it may not be maybe the best in terms of the nationalities you wanted to indicate, but they are the practical things that we have now, and they have moved forward. They have progressed from the smaller nation states. I'm not saying anything, I'm not belittling them. They were important. That's what was our foundation of development in our Africanity. But it has changed now. So we have to look at those changes and see how we adapt them and make sure we're still within our vision. It's the vision, not the process, that's most important. The goal, where we want to go. We can have many ways to going there, right? So, but it's the overall goal. How practical is it to go back? Those are really some serious questions. I'm sorry we don't have time to discuss them, but I would really want to, maybe if we have a new a session on this where we clarify. So some of us who are a bit doubtful, not completely doubtful, we can come with ideas. So we discuss it in a democratic way, in an Ubuntu way. I mean, to find some solutions. That's just what I wanted to raise. But thank you very, very much for daring to really think differently and get out of the box and try to find some solutions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Brother Kwame, I see hands are up, but as you have said, we have 4 minutes, so we can still maybe move to part 4. But let me hear from you first, Brother Kwame.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Brother Amadou raised some interesting points, and I didn't want to go into it because then that will take a lot of time. But then he's come back, emboldened by the other things he's heard. He's come back and then made his views more strident, and we welcome that. As you recognize, Chair, we can't go into that, and he's recognized it himself. So I think we'll take this up in the next session. Or I think I will just be brief because of time. A cutlass is a weapon for cutting things. If you want to use it for something else, then you have to melt it down and rebuild a new tool. And anytime Africans, Black people, want to do something new, and remember, we are the continent that always comes. So we are the people that come up with new things. We are told, oh, it's not possible. Oh, you are dreaming. Oh, why are you even thinking about that? No, they always tell us that. But anyway, so I think I'll pause there. We will. The short answer is that we are not going back. The diversity of Africans on the continent is a reality. We cannot run away from it. That is who we are. At the same time, we cannot use the neo-colonial states today to justify the oppression and suppression of others. Look, in Nigeria, right, the Igbo people feel oppressed and suppressed up to today. They don't feel that they are Nigerians. That is a reality. So again, we hear what our brothers are saying, but I think, Chair, we'll go into another session because perhaps this is what our Saturdays should really be discussing: the unification of Africa. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'll pause there.
No, thank you, comrades. We are almost a minute to attend. And I know the hands that are up had got an opportunity to speak before. Maybe there are a few things that are coming up. And because we want to be very clear on the direction of the next session, because there's a conversation coming in whether we are going to the federal systems or recognizing the states as we move with them, or whether we are going back to the nations and recognize the nations rather than the states in what we want to have for Africa, and what is the process for transition. I think those are key things that are coming out of this conversation, and they need to form a bigger part of our next part 4 of this. Basically on which direction do we move with the states and convert them to something or province or the rest, or do we recognize the nations of Africa and move with them? And then the next thing is how do we envision that transition? To what time do we ensure that we have it fully? How do we want to operationalize it? So if that is what I got right from here, then we welcome, and Brother Kwame has taken most of the issues you've raised, because remember, is not producing a final document. This is a living document. So you add your input, we build on it. You add your issues, we build on it. So Brother Kwame just does the work of adding the issues that are coming up. So it's like, this is like a public participation session where people giving their input as we build a document as we move along. No matter how long it may take us, but we need to have a document that is actually of so many voices brought together. So comrades, we are very clear from this conversation that the next level of this document is taking is those 2 main key issues. Other issues might come in terms of even the name, whether you want to call it Africa, you want to call it Pan-Africa, you want to call it any name you want to talk about. That will also be very important, and the justification for that. So I ask Brother Guy and Brother Kwame if you can post your contact or my contact, or I think you have shared also Sir Windhoek's contact,
I think he should be.
Yeah, if Sawindo can also share the contact, so that Brother Guy, you can get in touch with us. But I request you also to prepare your thought in terms of the transition level. So if you have a structure of so-called these states or federal whatever, please also prepare something about that, because we'll give you an opportunity. We want to build up together. And anybody who have something they can prepare in regards to the second level of this discussion that we are moving forward, please also prepare that document. We really would like to have documents.
May I type my WhatsApp? Sorry for interrupting.
Yes.
On the message. Okay.
Yes, on the chat. Yes.
Yeah. So I think, comrades, we are allowing everybody to prepare something they think in regards to this level.
Sorry to interrupt you, but can you just clarify what you saw as the main issues that going forward from your summary?
Now, there are two issues that are coming up. One is what is being raised by Brother Bongani and also Brother Guy in regards of whether do we move towards the state levels of what you have, convert them to any name we think, or whether do we want to move to the nations level. You see?
Okay, thank you.
As we move to the next thing, nation in this place, and it has been asked, Brother Kwame, clearly on we defining what you mean by nations as we move along. Then the second thing is what is the transition process looking like? Like how do you propose maybe in first year or third year or 5 years or 10 years, something like that. So those are the key things that are coming out, whether we move federal, we move nations, but what is the transition process that you're proposing?
Okay. Chair, with your permission, let me answer Sister Chizomo's question very briefly. That is that Sister Chizomo said, what is the organic nation? The question to Sister Chizomo is, which nation does she belong to? Is she Chekwa, or which group does she belong to? That group she belongs to, that is the organic nation. That nation existed, it still exists today. So that's the answer to that. Thank you.
Well, comrades, I hope you are okay with what I propose. I may not take other hands because our time is up, but I believe that the fact that you have an opportunity for the next session, which will be another 2 hours, I request that you come earlier and let's advance this document. Let us not go round and round, but let's progress as I'm seeing you're moving something. So let's progress to somewhere so that we can then have something, whether it takes a month or 2 months, but we are building up something. So that's what I propose for now. And with that, I would like to make some few announcements. That one is that these sessions are always recorded for purposes of education. We are an educational group, so our sessions are recorded and shared for educational purposes, not for commercial purposes, but for educational purposes. So I will share this recording for this session by next week, and the recordings of our previous sessions will also be available by tomorrow. Second thing is that we invite you to our main study session, where we study consciousness, the philosophy and ideology for the colonization of Africa every Thursday. That one now is a pure study class. Unlike this place where we just have conversation, that's a class where we study the philosophy and ideology for the colonization by Kwame Nkrumah. That is every Thursday. We will also share the recording for that as well. And those are two updates that I'd like to pass across. Unless Brother Kwame, you have something before we bring this meeting to an end.
No, just to thank everyone for coming and to thank all the voices that we've heard. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you.
So once again, thank you very much. As I've requested, please, if you want to prepare something that can help us advance this conversation, feel free to prepare it and feel free to share it with us or with Brother Sawindo so that we start building some other documents as we form one document that Brother Kwame is trying to work on through the issues we are putting forth. So that's what I can say for now. And with that, please, may you have a lovely evening and let's meet again on Thursday or next Saturday, same time. Remember, for people in London, 6 p.m. London, not 7 p.m. now, and same as 6 p.m. at that time. Bye-bye for now.